morning. Welcome to St. Paul's. Just draw your attention to the announcements in the program this morning. The Sowing Seeds of Climate Hope, the adult education class led by Pastor Greg, will meet in the lounge today at 11:45. Trunk or treat is coming October 25th, right here at the church from 6:30 to 8:30. I know they could use more trunkers if you're so inclined. Notice on Tuesday, the discussion group that normally meets at 11 o'clock in the morning will not meet this week, but they will resume on October 29th. And rather than me tell you about St. Paul's Arts and Crafts and Country Fair, we have a special guest.
Okay, everybody, this is it now, and I know you're going to feel bad about this, but I will not be making a speech next week because I plan to be at Trunk or Treat where I will surely lose my voice trying to imitate a witch and doing a lot of cackling. So to wrap this up, I've just checked the board out in the narthex. There are still some blank spaces, so if any of you have signed up before and can sign up again, we need you. That would be wonderful. And I just was stopped in the hallway out there by, the narthex, pardon me, by Nancy Lutz, who pointed out that it is apple season and fresh apple pies are needed for dessert at the luncheon counter. So if you're capable, willing, and able, you could use some fresh apple pies. There's a little square up there. Remove the asterisk from something else down there. So look for the ASAP asterisk. There's a little box there. You can put down 4, 5, 6 pies, however many you can make. That would be great. So the information about the safari that we talked about last week is still available. That's going to be offered at the silent auction. It is an almost $6,000 value, and you can go, 2 people, go for 6 days for the price of $2,500. And if you want a bit higher, if you want to do the original buyout of $3,000, we will take your money, but you could have that trip for $2,500. Raffle tickets are being sold at the marketplace between services and after services. If you have not taken your required dozen tickets to sell, do take them today and sign out for them. Now, if you don't want to sell them yourself, I told you this last week too, you can always buy them yourself. And you too could win the lovely quilt that's been donated by our own Mary Benz, made and donated by her, or you could win one of the 5 drawings for gift cards. Most importantly, I'd like you to pick up posters today at the workplace. You can display them in your vehicle, maybe at a favorite restaurant, at your workplace, or at a store. And equally important, we have those cute little mini posters that we've handed out other years. And leave those any place you're going to be going in the next 2 weeks. I always leave them with receptionists at the dentist office or the doctor's office. Leave them at the library. Just spread them around town. People like to be invited to things, and if you say, oh, here, please come to our fair, and you see our invitation, they usually are very happy to get them, and you never know, you might run into them here at the fair. And by the way, if you took home a yard sign last week or a couple weeks ago, they can be displayed now. And no, the ones all over town that say craft show are not ours, so we do have to get our advertising out there. So get your signs out, take posters, take mini posters, spread the word. Thank you.
please rise and join me in the call to worship. Come, people of God, come together in the presence of our Creator.
We come hungry for the new covenant God promises to write on our hearts.
Come, people of faith, God is here to fill us with wisdom and patience.
We come yearning for God's justice and faithful presence in our world.
Will you please remain standing and sing to God, we gather together. those who are powerless. We lift them up and we ask, oh God, that you would quickly come and make things right. Oh, patient, forgiving, fountain of justice. Your words are sweet. You hold us back from things that would destroy us. Yet even when we know your will for our lives, we do find ourselves distracted by our desires, ever turning away from your truth to wander paths that lead us astray. And still you offer us a better future and a new relationship where you will continue to plant your life within us, equipping us for every good work. So, Holy God, we thank you for your forgiveness this morning. And we ask that you help us as individuals, as a community, as a church, to work towards justice in your world, so that last, finally, your kingdom will come. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, who taught us how to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
The law of God is written in our hearts, opening us to the needs of others. Let us share what we've been given with those in need. of compassion, we come to you offering our lives and our industry as fruit of the good news you are bringing into the world. Bless these gifts that others may be touched by the grace and tender mercy we have found in your love. Amen.
But sort of in the middle of the experience, you have a flashback or a memory to the first time you ever experienced that. And I was having that experience on the very first bell piece. I can't tell you which church it was at, and I can't tell you exactly when it was. It was almost 40 years ago, but I had a flashback to the very first time in my life I ever heard bells played in a church. And I remembered in that flashback how magical and beautiful and unusual that experience was for me. I'd never heard bells played in a church before. And as I'm having that flashback, listening to that first piece and enjoying that music, I'm also now flooded with this feeling of gratitude. So for, almost 16 years, every month. We've had wonderful, wonderful bell music. And it's such a gift. You know, as I've said before, when I'm on a vacation, I visit other churches, and I go to these big churches, these amazing, huge churches, and all these churches, and we have this gift that not all churches have. And I just want to ask you, I know you've already applauded, but I would just ask you if you would join me in praising God and thanking God again, thanking our bell players. It was just beautiful music. Would you join me in doing that? Okay, so as you can see, my Bible is kind of worn out, and it's falling apart, and I really do read it. That's why it's falling apart. And there are passages in it that I have mentally snipped out and placed in a little imaginary nightstand drawer by my bed that's been carefully labeled, "Awaiting Further Light." And I have quite a few passages that are awaiting further light, and I hope someday to figuratively, face-to-face, ask the author, well, what was meant by that? And today's passage actually has a part that is snipped out and awaiting further light for me. And I'm not even going to comment on the sermon, but I'm going to just say a word about it now, because I'm going to talk about something else. In our passage today, Jesus talks about the persistence of prayer and praying for justice. And he says that justice will come quickly. And it's that word quickly that I have snipped out, because I do not know what he means by quickly. Obviously, if he's referring to the second coming, which is referenced in the last verse, verse 8, the Son of Man, when he comes, I take that as reference to the second coming. Obviously, that has not happened in 2,000 years. So what was Jesus referring to when he was speaking to his disciples? What did Luke mean when he was speaking to, the folk he was writing for? I really don't know. I really don't know what that word quickly refers to. So that's awaiting further light for me. But fortunately, there's lots in here that I think I can glean something from and share with you, and I hope it will be helpful for you. So we begin in chapter 18, reading at verse 1. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. He said, in a certain town there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared about men. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, "Grant me justice against my adversary." For some time he refused. But finally he said to himself, "Even though I don't fear God or care about men, yet because this woman keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so that she won't eventually wear me out with her coming." And the Lord said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice, and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?" I heard that John Wesley, the famous English clergyman and founder of the Methodist Church who lived in the 18th century, would awake at 4 o'clock every morning, and he would pray for 3 hours before he would do anything else. And if he had an especially busy day, he would wake up at 3. Now, But John Wesley reportedly prayed for 3 hours to begin every day. Thomas Hopko passed away a few years ago, and he was a famous Russian Orthodox priest. He taught at St. Vladimir's Seminary in New York, and he wrote many books and had radio programs and touched lives all around the world through his ministry in the Russian Orthodox Church. And after he passed away, there was a radio program honoring him, and a woman called in and she said, I happen to go to the same church where Father Hopko's daughter attends. And we were new to the faith, and Father Hopko was visiting his daughter, and I had an opportunity to meet him in person. And when he learned that we had just joined the Russian Orthodox Church, he said to me, I will pray for you. Because after you join, you will meet resistance. And she said he was right. Shortly after we joined, my husband became very ill. But after Father Hopko passed away, his daughter stopped me one Sunday and said, I was going through my father's things, and I came across his prayer journal. And your names were the last names written in his prayer journal. For some people, prayer just seems so easy, just like falling off of a log. For others of us, prayer is not so easy. Jesus tells a parable to those of us for whom prayer can be a chore. He says, and this is really interesting, as he begins his parable, Luke tells us that the parable's meaning is that we ought to pray and not give up. That's so unusual. Usually the Bible doesn't tell us what the parables mean. We're invited to tease our minds to figure it out. But not in this case. We're told that this parable is about praying and not giving up, persisting. And you know what that implies, right? The background of that? You don't tell people to persist at things that come easy to them. You don't tell people to persist at things that come natural to them. You don't tell people to persist at things that they enjoy. When my children, who are 20 and 21, go out for the evening, I do not say to them, please stay out till midnight. I don't need to tell them that. They're going to be out having fun with their friends. I don't need to say, don't come home before 1 a.m. No, this parable, we're told, is told to us that we might persist in prayer. Now, why would we need to persist? I mean, it seems to me that it's obvious that prayer is important, and Jesus prayed all the time. That's what the Gospels say. St. Paul said, pray without ceasing. All of these things. We read about people who pray for hours and hours and hours. People who pray throughout the... Why would we need to do that? Why would we need to persist in prayer? It's not like we need to remind God. God doesn't forget. We don't need to send little sticky notes or put them up around God's apartment on the fridge. Don't forget, I asked you to heal my hand. No, we don't need to remind God about these things. But persistence, of course, does things for us. persistence sometimes changes our prayers. I've discovered over praying for people over the years that in persisting to pray for others, the others have changed. When I was young, I prayed especially for my mother. Every night before I go to bed, I pray that God would watch over my mother and bless my mother, take care of my mother. I had a few friends that I might include in that circle. But essentially the prayers were for people within my circle. But what I've discovered is, as I've gotten older, other people have crowded into that circle. Until now, when I pray for everyone mostly. Everyone, everywhere. And not just for human beings, for all of life, for all God's creation. I lift us all up in prayer. And I think that's happened in part because I have persisted. I think clarity. Clarity. There are some things that I have prayed for that after a while I thought, oh, maybe I don't really want that. Maybe I don't really need that. Maybe what I need or want is something else. So persistence clarifies my prayers. And persistence also does another thing. It sparks me to begin to act. Now, let me give you the reverse of this. I read a book by a medical doctor. His name is Larry Dossey, and it's called Healing Words. And it's actually about the scientific studies or profiles or measurements of the efficacy of prayer. But in the very beginning of his book, he starts out by saying this. He says, I'm a Christian doctor. And it dawned on me one day that if I really want my patients to get better, why am I not praying for them too? So you can ask your doctor that the next time you go to the physician, are you praying for me? Well, this is the reverse of that. I have discovered that when I pray for things, I begin to think, what can I do in addition to prayer? What can I act upon that will help this prayer come about? And notice that this woman's prayer is a very specific prayer. She is not praying for parking space at Neiman Marcus. She is praying for justice. And if we want God to bring about justice, then I have to ask myself, how am I acting justly? What am I doing that is for the cause of justice? I saw a Twitter. I get these little notifications on my phone. I have no idea how I get some of these. But this person had tweeted this, and usually I don't even look at them, but this morning it came. Really, it came this morning. This is what the person tweeted. It was a minister, some minister, and he just said, when I vote, I'm not just voting for me. I'm voting for the poor, the immigrant, the addicted, the stigmatized, the indebted, the abused, the oppressed, the incarcerated. So that's what prayer does. Persistent prayer causes me to think about, what am I doing for this? And even though it's not really a sufficient answer, and I had that word quickly in my little drawer, I made marked awaiting further light, it did occur to me that maybe the justice that comes quickly is to be brought about by people who are praying for justice. Now that's different from the Lord's coming and setting all things right, but I wondered about that. The parable also suggests that when I pray with purpose. The woman wanted justice. on his front porch steps. When he gets up and goes to work in the morning, there she is, sitting on his front porch step. When he goes out for lunch, there she is, 2 stools down at the counter in the restaurant, waiting just to talk to him. He cannot get away from her because he has a purpose. She has a purpose. She wants justice. And oh, by the way, I would say to you that God is our justice. If there is no God, there is no real justice. There's only my justice and your justice, or rich justice, or powerful justice. But no, the Bible tells us that God is justice. And God will bring justice. And with justice, now this you have to kind of strap yourself in for. With justice comes judgment. You can't have justice without some form of judgment. This woman who has nothing, she wants judgment. I have to ask myself, do I really want judgment? If things are going to be made fair, what does that mean for me? So what is my purpose really in praying? And the last thing that I'll share with you that I take from today's story about prayer is it's not only to be persistent, it's not only to be purposeful, but it has to be personal. You see, this woman talks to the judge as you would only talk to people that you are most intimate with. She is mouthy. Okay? She is a nag. Who are the people we nag? Who are the people that we're mouthy to? Amen. Amen. They're the people that we are in a personal relationship with. And this is the remarkable thing. Jesus tells us this parable as a way of contrasting. You have this judge who is so reluctant, doesn't want to have anything to do with this woman. Eventually he gives in, not because he cares about justice, not because he cares about God, not because he cares about the woman, because he wants to get rid of her. And Jesus offers that image. Remember, it's a made-up story he's telling. He offers that image as a contrast to God. All those things the judge is, he's saying God is the opposite of those things. God wants you to bother him. God wants you to bother him all day long. And so it's a personal thing. And you bother him in your own way. I heard about a woman who invited a large group of people over to her house for dinner. I mean, she invited some family members, co-workers, some neighbors. It was a large group. And so it took her a whole week to get ready for this meal, for this gathering. And every night, she was getting ready, doing food preparation, straightening, cleaning the house. And at her shoulder, every step of the way, was her 8-year-old son, Tyler. And Tyler was just helping. He was being so helpful. And finally, everything came together. And everyone was there for the meal. And as they were about to eat, she just stopped and she said, "Thank you all so much for coming. I'm glad you're here this evening. But I have to acknowledge Tyler. None of this would have happened if it hadn't been for Tyler's help. He helped me every step of the way. And because of that, Tyler, I'm going to ask, would you offer the blessing for me?" Now, Tyler had never in his life ever prayed in public. And he was not expecting this. He was stunned. And he just kind of stood there, staring off into space, and his mother realized, "Oh, I've persistent. Think about what it is that you really, really want. Be specific and bother God with it. Please we stand and sing our hymn, Sent Forth by God's Blessing. Share with you our needs and concerns in humble faith.